man.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Reynolds, and today we have a great episode for you. We have Jot Maxi and Hurley from the rap metal UK band Hacktivist. You could probably tell from the name of the band that they have much more to say than just talking about and rapping about cars and girls and cocaine and that type of stuff. So this podcast was a great conversation, and I think initially this conversation kind of felt more like an interview, and as time went by, it got more casual and it felt more like a conversation. That's always what I'm trying to capture. So I'm glad that we had a great conversation. We really went deep in our perspectives, opinions, and things that are going on all over the world. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation. Support the band Hacktivist. I have their music playing in the background as we speak. I don't want to play the whole song or put it in the forefront of anything, because I know that all the algorithms will pick up on it and then probably suppress the show for the music if it's not already suppressing the show for the content. And that kind of leads me into the next thing. Please share the show. I have a Patreon page. I always say support the bands that I have on the show, support the authors, documentary filmmakers, support them, support my work on Patreon, but also share all this stuff, because this stuff is being censored and it's getting harder to get this information out there to people who are curious and are interested in this stuff. So please share it, post it on your social media sites, tell people about it, text links to people, do all that type of stuff. It goes a long way. So please do that. On our YouTube channel, in the show description, you'll find links to our guests' work, to my work. So it's a great way of supporting the show through Patreon, or getting my music, or getting Hacktivist's music. And they have 2 new songs, Dogs of War and Reprogrammed. So check those out. They both have music videos too, so check that out. And they have a full-length album called Outside the Box, but they have a new one that they're working on, which we talked about on the show. So keep a lookout for that also. So thanks again, guys. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate everybody who supports the show, everybody who hits me up and says they like the show. Obviously, like I tell you guys, if you can't support the show financially, then sharing the show is the next best thing, and do that, because it's free. It's a great way of helping out and getting the word out. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of you guys. I've had artists on like 1 Minute Silence and Enter Shikari, which you guys are very familiar with, and I love bands that use their platform to try to say something serious and really take advantage of people listening. So and I don't think there's enough artists doing that. For some reason, it does seem like a lot of the ones I like Architects, Low Key, Akela, like they're all from the UK. What is that? Why does it seem like there's more artists being vocal about their views on the world, politically or social issues in the UK? It seems like since Rage Against the Machine, there's kind of been a disappearance of any bands really breaking through that have anything interesting to say.
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't really know, man. Don't really know what the reason for that is, but
could be because things get suppressed over there. Maybe government doesn't really like people being too outspoken, so you're not going to get much success if you talk about these kind of things in America. Could be that, or maybe it's just because over here it's freezing cold and life's real hard, and we just like talking about truth and what's like difficulties and stuff like that. Who knows?
I think I was born in Portugal, and there's something about when you talk to people from Europe, and you know, I have friends from different parts of Europe, and it seems like they're better informed, and because the history of America is so, I mean, when you really look at it, like you can go to Europe and find castles that were built before this country was even found, and it's one of those things where it almost seems like people, you know, people in America, we get told like North Korea is a giant, you know, everybody's brainwashed and they're just sold propaganda. And I look at them and I'm like, America's pretty similar in regards to how people who live in America, they're very uninformed in regards to European history, world history, and even most of American history when it comes down to coups all over the world, you know, in Central America and South America. And it just seems like something about Europe, and I don't know if it's because maybe they're taught, I guess, more history, and maybe it's not as, because there's something about America where we're told at a very young age about how great this country is and how we're the good guys. We're always the good guys. And that brainwashing starts at a really young age. And I feel like a lot of people grow up feeling that way because, as you know, the history's written by the winners. And when America's winning most of their wars, they get to kind of rewrite history, or at least give you the perspective inside that makes them come out like they're the good guys. And I forget who was it after who the quote about after World War II, if we didn't win that war, how instead of the Germans being tried, it would have been the Americans for dropping the bomb and for all that firebombing and all that stuff. So growing up in Europe, do you guys feel like Europeans are just better informed and more aware of history, American history, and maybe history from their own countries?
Do we think we're more informed? I think so, yeah. I think people are a little bit more open-minded in that aspect. I mean, they do the same thing as they do in your country by drumming it into you nice and early, kind of brainwashing you. But yeah, I think we're just a little bit more open-minded in that aspect. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the whole of the Western world lives in a bubble, but you're definitely in more of a bubble in the US, and that might be because the US is quite consolidated, whereas over here we've got the whole, like Europe is all quite close. It's easy for us to get. We could be in Germany real quick. We could be in a couple of hours. We could be in France, Germany, Spain, Italy. We've got sort of all these other little countries around us. So it's easier to come out of the bubble. But I mean, through media and education, they definitely try and control us all. Maybe it's just a little bit easier to get out of it over here.
Yeah, that might be the case, because it does seem like a lot. You know, I've had like I talked about 1 Minute Silence and Barry the Singer, and also the filmmaker who did a great documentary called Ethos, which is actually narrated by Woody Harrelson, and really talking about propaganda and stuff like that. And you talk to people from Ireland, you talk to people from the UK. I mean, it does seem like people seem like historically they're well informed, but you do see also the brainwashing. Like when we were trying to be sold the Iraq War, I know that the UK, same thing. You guys were sold the same book of lies, and they were trying to push the same war agenda. And that's something that I think even in America we don't realize, that how, like you said, the same techniques are being used in the UK as they are here in regards to, using scare tactics and stuff like that to sell wars. I hope I don't get you guys in trouble, because one thing I love that people love about this podcast is that it's a very casual conversation, and wherever the conversation goes, I let it go. And I know that we're focusing. I kind of got into immediately about some of your views on the world and stuff like that. Hopefully that's all right with you guys.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Fine, yeah.
It's similar to you guys. I try to use my platform as getting people some real discussion, some real thought-provoking conversations, and hoping they can take something from it. And it's really my way of trying to do my part in it's similar to you guys, leaving the world a little better than we've received it. But it's yeah, I mean, so in regards to, I know you've been asked a lot of musical questions throughout your careers in music. What's some of your and I'm sure one of them is your influences musically, but I'm kind of curious on what your influences were in regards to your mindset, your thinking. What provoked you guys to be, I guess, so attracted to talking about these issues, being anti-war, talking about corruption, these type of things? Was there a book? Was there a lecture? Was there a thinker that really got your attention, or even a documentary that really got your attention, that really, I guess, started you down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I watched that Fahrenheit 9/11. What's his name? Michael.
Oh, Michael Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Moore. I watched that. That kind of got my made my ears perk up a little bit. So that was kind of one of my influences on some of the ways of different countries and stuff.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna hold back. Basically, I've always been very turned on by the truth. I'm really always looking for what the truth about things are. I want the logical. Like I think I was about 3 years old when I stood on top of I stood on top of the settee and I said to my mum, yo, Superman can't fly, right? Superman's fake. And she was like, yes. I said, so Father Christmas definitely can't fly. Reindeer can't fly. She was like, okay. And then I think I cried for like half an hour. But always been looking for the truth. And also, like if you said boiled down to a certain book or something, I'm a firm believer that there is a creator, that we've been created, that, I mean, the band isn't, this is me personally, for the rest of the guys, but I believe that we've been created, that there is right and wrong, and that this life is very connected with karma and right and wrong. And it doesn't matter what religion you're talking about, Buddhism, Christian, Muslim, right and wrong is the main theme in all of them. So like, it just seems natural for me to hunt out truth, and also to when something's wrong, to address it, to attack it. It just seems natural for me to do that. And when I saw the rest of the guys were doing that, and I had the chance to join the band, I was like, this is brilliant. We click on that in that sense, on that subject.
Yeah, and you guys don't. I know we talked about briefly about how you think maybe some American artists are afraid of talking about that stuff. I mean, the nice thing about the internet is, even though this platform is being controlled, YouTube and what's coming up when you search for things on Google, and all this stuff all the censorship is being controlled, and because there are people who control the software and algorithms and all that stuff. It's not all organic like they've told us for a long time, and they have agendas. But so in regards to that, like, are you guys afraid that maybe being so outspoken or talking about these issues might not be sexy, or because it sounds like you guys, probably like most great thinkers and people who have been outspoken, you really don't care, right? You're probably much more motivated about trying to get this information and your perspective out than you are about selling records.
Yeah, definitely. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of people just want to do what sells, and people want to do what's hot right now, but we just want to do the truth.
Yeah, like, it's funny you should say that about our algorithms and things like that, because obviously our last single, Dogs of War, it's we don't really care about views and all that stuff. We just do what we do and let it take its course. But we have noticed that between our previous single, Reprogram, and Dogs of War, there has been a drastic, it's almost like, it's not that people don't like it. People are, the response has been great, but it's almost like it's not getting out to as many people as the last one did. And it's almost like because of we're directly attacking certain military organizations, certain governments in that song, it's almost like I'm not paranoid, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's certain algorithms holding that song back. And on the same subject as well, we talk amongst ourselves. We say quite often, we don't want to be seen as a preachy band. Like every song we do, we're just preaching about something. We do have a lot of tracks, just to let you know, coming up on the new album, where we're just rapping. You know, we're normal rappers as well. Jay and I, we had hard upbringings. We've done all the naughty stuff, all the bad stuff. So we do have a few tracks where we're just talking about that as well. We're not always trying to preach. So, you know, it's not always about that. And we are very conscious about not trying to always be on that vibe.
Yeah, I mean, well, you open up the Dogs of War with a quote from PNAC, Project for New American Century, so that might get some attention of some people. And you know, I love that, because the fact that you were even, you know, that you were aware of PNAC and the Project for a New American Century, which a lot of people go back and when talking about 9/11 and talking about possibly you know, the U.S. government either letting it happen or being a part of it. You know, PNAC was a big part of that, because they talked about needing a new Pearl Harbor to get into the Middle East and kind of justifying their military expansion. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool that they took advantage of having a brand new song and video, and right away just threw a PNAC quote to get your attention. And I think that's awesome, because how many kids are gonna watch that video and they're like, what the fuck is PNAC? And then they're gonna go down that rabbit hole and be exposed. And I don't find you guys preachy at all. I mean, I think the one thing that you can see, it doesn't matter if you're a libertarian or if you're a classic liberal or whatever ideology you might subscribe to, if you're religious, not religious, whatever it may be. I think we can all come together when it comes down to being anti-war. And I'm like that. I don't really subscribe to any ideology, because I feel like you know, when you put yourself in a box, then you have to defend that team, and it's not about ideas being good or bad. It's about defending your team, and I think humans are much more complex than that. Our thinking should be much more complex than that, than just agreeing with one party or one ideology all the time. But so I think it's awesome that you guys have so much of a anti-war theme, because I think that's the one topic that a lot of people can come together on, you know, if it doesn't matter what background or ideology you have.
Yeah, and on that subject, about when you're talking about the quotes that we included in that video,
yeah,
we really must give credit to the rest of the band, because although we're the lyricists of the group, it really, those facts and the sources, they were all sourced by the rest of the guys, honestly, to be honest. That was them. We kind of gave them that mission, or they took it upon themselves actually to do that. And we were so impressed when the video, we saw the first few rushes of the video. We were like, wow, you guys really found the good facts, and you put up where they came from. So that was really refreshing to see as well. It's nice that all five of us have got that that kind of seeking for truth vibe in us and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought that was awesome, because on your website, I think you actually have the source links there to some of the stuff that's in the video, correct?
Yeah. There's a blog. You can go and see even more quotes and even more information. If people want to look into some of the stuff we touch on, there's it's up on our website.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. And in regards to it being suppressed, I mean, one of my became a good friend from being a guest on the show so many times, and one of my favorite researchers, James Corbett from the CorbettReport.com. He has a video. It's like a little 5-minute video called 9/11: A Conspiracy Theory. It's a lot. Some people share it as, they call it like 9/11 in 5 minutes or whatnot. But either way, it's a video that it's like his most viewed video of like all time. And this video constantly it just disappears. You can put the exact title in, all this stuff, and you can't find it. And this is all happening in like the last 6 months. Same thing with it. He has a great documentary on the Fed called Century of Enslavement, and that thing just disappears. It's hard to find. So it's quite obvious that there's something going on, and so much information is being suppressed, and that stuff bothers me, because it's one of those things where somebody like yourself or myself, if we want to do research on something or try to figure out what's really going on, the internet was the place we could do it. We could find independent journalists, we could find independent websites, we could find all types of just resources to get a different perspective on what's going on in the world. And now, if you just Google stuff, the first thing that's going to come up is going to be all mainstream. It's going to be BBC. It's going to be CNN. It's going to be all that stuff. So it's gotten harder to do your own research because they just want to force feed you the mainstream narrative. In regards to some of the places where you guys get your information, is there any just trusted websites, Twitter accounts, documentary or filmmakers, journalists, anybody that you would recommend that you guys like to go to?
I mentioned earlier Michael
Moore.
Yeah,
but even Michael Moore, he's a
bit mainstream now, isn't he?
Well, not just that, he's gone so, because the thing with me is that, and I think that even though you have a perspective, opinion, and maybe you side with a team, because Michael Moore is quite obvious, very anti-Trump, and I get it, but don't make it out like Obama was a saint because you're anti-Trump.
I mean, to me, they're all puppets on strings anyway.
Exactly, that's my point.
They're not really the guys making the decisions. They're just the messengers that get shot. But it's how deep you want to go with it, really. I mean,
I mean, in regards to the conversation, how deep? I mean, we can. The thing is, my point about Michael Moore is really that you can get somebody who did, because Fahrenheit 9/11 had some good information in there. It was a good documentary, and then he'll do interviews where he'll just talk like every Democrat is a great person and the Republican's a bad person, and it's, again, they pick these teams. But again, I'm also a believer that we shouldn't discredit the information based on who's giving the information. I mean, they had, when Hillary Clinton was running, there was a documentary called Clinton Cash. There were some other good documentaries that exposed some of the money laundering and the pay-to-play foundation that is the Clinton Foundation. But yet it was obvious that they were one-sided, that they were conservative or they're on the right, and they were just trying to expose somebody on the left. So even though they're internally, they might not have pure morals in regards to, they might not care as much about exposing the truth as you and I. They might be more influenced by trying to make the other side look bad, but it doesn't mean the information's wrong. So if their information's not wrong, then yeah, I mean, to me, because sometimes you'll say, hey, I like this documentary, and somebody will completely just ignore it, but that's Michael Moore, he's a lefty. It's like, well, yeah, but the information's correct, so isn't that important? Like, you can't discredit stuff just because this person has a outspoken opinion. So
yeah, sure.
You agree with that?
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. What you were saying, though, I mean, I've been touching on the dark web for some information as well, which is, I mean, I'm not going to list websites and stuff like that. I don't want to go too deep. People can do that themselves. But to be honest, one of these cretins, the people who run the world and have been taking things in a certain direction for the last couple hundred, maybe 300 years, they hide in plain sight. So sometimes the best place to look is just directly at them. They although certain information and videos might go missing, things like that, they will very often give you clues as to what they're doing themselves. You don't really have to look too far to see that they don't really hide. The general agenda isn't really being hidden too much. They like to hide in plain sight. It's almost their motto. And a lot of these conspiracies and conspiracy theories on a regular basis now, it's coming out that they're not even conspiracy theories. It's actually fact. So many are becoming general knowledge and common facts in the last few years, especially since 9/11, zeitgeist, things like that. It's just becoming things that people know rather than. I could probably make an A4 page list of things that 5 years ago were conspiracy theories and right now they've been admitted and they are true, and there's government documents to support the fact that they are real active agendas.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. 9/11's one of those. 9/11 was, I think, our generation's JFK, and I think the Epstein story is kind of the new 9/11 or a new JFK event. I think it's gonna make a lot of people who are skeptical. It's gonna
The what story? The what story?
The Jeffrey Epstein story. Have you guys been following that? The billionaire who is linked to child trafficking and linked to the Clintons and linked to Trump and Wexner, the guy who owns a Victoria's Secret and all that stuff, and supposedly hung himself in prison.
Wow, no, that's something we need to get into. To be honest.
Oh, you guys don't know about the Jeffrey Epstein story? Oh,
No, I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about him. Himself. Yeah.
I'll send you guys a podcast I did with Whitney Webb. She's from America, but she lives in Chile, and she's a journalist for a smaller media organization called Mint Press News, and they're awesome. And I did a whole hour and a half podcast just on the Jeffrey Epstein story. She's like one of the leading researchers in regards to that story. But this story is huge because it was so obvious that this guy had all this money. He had nobody knew where this money came from. He had fake passports. He has links to Mossad. He has links to presidents, the royal family. I'm actually surprised because Prince Andrews was seen with him and partied with him. And he's had some public, he said that obviously he didn't know anything about this stuff, but he had this thing called like Pedophilia Island. He owned like his own island, and he would fly his private jet, all these rich and famous and powerful people to this island. Yeah, and he would fly these people. And this guy's been accused of this forever. I mean, you can just Google Jeffrey Epstein now. Even though some of the mainstream stuff is gonna, I guess, probably not get as deep as like somebody like Whitney Webb. But even if you just look into it, I think Sky News also did like a short documentary on it. It was like, I think you can find it on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes if you just want to, I guess, take baby steps into the story. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Talking to people from Europe, I was curious on how big the story got overseas because they did implicate that Prince Andrews was involved and friends with this guy, partied with this guy. I mean, this guy, he's been accused of, he has tons of people who have accused him. And, he's been basically just finding a way to stay out of prison all these years, even though there's tons of girls and people who talked about being molested and being at these parties and seeing these powerful people at these parties. And it's still quite confusing on if he was using this whole scheme as blackmail to control rich and powerful people, or they were just all involved, but there's also links to Mossad. It's really interesting. But he was in prison. He finally ended up getting in prison, getting locked up, and he was. I think they were afraid of him talking, so he attempted to kill himself once. Supposedly, they put him on suicide watch. Then all of a sudden, they took him off suicide watch out of nowhere. Like a couple days later, he was supposed to have a cellmate. They removed the cellmate from the cell. Basically, was not checking on him every 15 minutes like they should have when he was on suicide watch. They faked the log, so they weren't checking on him at all. And all of a sudden, they find him dead. And the whole story's like crazy. And then everybody's just like, wow, there's no way he killed himself. He was linked to Trump and the Clintons, and Prince Andrews and you know, Wexner and all these rich and powerful people. There's no way he killed himself. He just, it was obvious that they just didn't want him to talk, and so it's one of those stories. Like I said, I'll send you the link to Whitney Webb's it's her website and stuff like that. You could probably just Google Whitney Webb, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, thank you, man. We I don't know if it's just a case of it's taken time to leak its way over here, but also a lot of us we don't really watch TV or anything like that. We'll research certain things, we'll keep an eye on certain YouTube channels, but general news, because we're so used to being fed what they want us to see on news, we don't really watch. I can speak for myself. I don't even watch TV. I don't have a TV. Like, my TV's plugged into my computer, and that's it.
Yeah, well, it's like that quote: if you watch TV, if you watch the news, you're misinformed. Or yeah, you're misinformed, and if you don't watch it, then you're uninformed. So which one's worse, right? I mean, you're almost better off being uninformed, so you don't to quote your song, so you don't have to reprogram yourself, right?
Hey, I like the way you use the word there.
Yeah, I love the lyrics to your songs because you know, it really is. You find a creative way of getting these messages across, and we really are being programmed. There is a sense of social control, and like you said, even with the story, it's phenomenal that that you guys, you know, even though you don't watch the news in America, everybody was talking about it from alternative media. Well, I've been talking about it forever because there's a huge pedophilia issue with the rich and powerful and the cover up of it. You had the Seville guy from the UK, which I'm sure you guys know his story. The Epstein stories very similar in regards to just covering up pedophilia. There's a thing called the Franklin scandal in America, which is another thing that had high-ranked politicians and rich and powerful, and it was a scandal that was covered up. A documentary that was supposed to come out was eventually suppressed and never released about the whole story. You can find like some weird cut of it called Conspiracy of Silence. It was like an unedited version on YouTube, if it's still available there. Who knows? A lot of this stuff is kind of disappearing from YouTube or whatnot. But
have we still got you there, bro?
Yeah, I'm still here. I can edit this part out.
Finish what you were saying, and then we'll just excuse Jay and let him go.
Yeah, I've got to head back. I've still got a bit of a drive back to my house, so I'm gonna dip out. But it was nice speaking to you, man.
Hey, you too, and hopefully have you guys on again. I know you have tons of music that you're. Well, I think did you finish the new album? I saw on your Instagram page. Did you guys?
We're just finishing it now. We've got another couple of days in the studio. So
yeah, that's the thing. We're getting home very late, about 9:30 each night, and then leaving again about 8:30 each morning at the moment to do all the recording. So it's quite exciting, but it's very, very energy consuming and time consuming.
Yeah, let everybody know that being in a popular band isn't just all strippers and cocaine. There's a lot of hard work.
No.
I'm gone, man. It's good speaking to you, bro. See you soon.
You too, Jay. Thank you.
Sweet.
We're just seeing Jay off, man. He's gotta go and do some stuff. I actually live in the south of France, which is probably another reason why I don't get a lot of media sort of through the normal networks. Like when I log on to Google, I'll get everything in French, and I just don't really pay attention, things like that. So I'm over here staying with my cousin who lives about half an hour away from where Jay is. So he just dropped me off, came in to have a little chat with you, and he had to go. So, but yeah, man, it's brilliant to be able to connect and talk about truth like this. I didn't realize that you kind of going deep on these subjects was something that you did on a regular basis with most of your guests. So that's quite refreshing.
Yeah, no, it when I had like Cell Dweller on, I remember when a lot of people were hitting up me and just saying, "Oh, thanks for kind of going off the rails in regards to talking about music and talking about other things," because he's we talked about George Orwell and all that stuff and some of his other influences. And a lot of times you get a musician on and people just want to talk about music. And to me, it's like there's a lot of interviews of you guys talking about music, and there will be many interviews of you guys talking about music. But to me, it's like I always assume, and for the most part, I've been right, where if you make interesting music, then you're probably an interesting person, and you're probably much more complex than just music. And that's kind of where I like to go, and I like to kind of just figure out what influences you, what motivates you, what's the topics or issues that are dearest to your heart, all those type of things.
For sure. And I mean, when you're talking about music, honestly, like I said to you, I think when we were messaging the other day, I said, you know, there's only so much you can really answer about. You know, it's the same old, yeah, where we just brought out this new single, we've got this new album coming out, and we draw inspiration from A, B, and C, and yeah, man, really, where we got this tour coming up, it was really nice to meet those guys, and then after that, there's not much more to be said. I mean, it's actually quite offensive when you get an interview, and it's just all those questions, and then you get some interviewers who you know, they try and be outside the box and funny they'll be like, oh, so I'm just going to ask you some crazy questions. Like, if you were going to put something really weird on a pizza, what would you put on it? You know, those kind of interviews.
Yeah. Well, the thing with me, it's like you guys are using your platform to try to, I don't know. To me, artists like yourself is similar to like a Nikolai Tesla or any of the great historical figures, when they were really motivated by their work and trying to do something meaningful. And when people talk to you guys and just, you know, I'm like, if there's any band, any artist where you're interviewing that you have so much to talk about, I mean, just look at your music. Like, don't they think that you guys would have a lot of interesting perspectives on what's going on in the world, on imperialism, on the American empire, on even just like any social issues, big pharma, big food, whatever it may be. Like, you know, to me, like what I watch your videos, I listen to your music, and I think, wow, there's a lot of things I could talk about with these guys. They probably have an opinion on this, they probably have an opinion on that, and I feel like there's a lot of interesting things that we could talk about. And when a person kind of, I mean, I guess for a lack of a better term, wastes your time with these silly questions, I'm sure sometimes it's refreshing, right? Because, I mean, maybe you don't want to talk about serious stuff all the time. But it is one of those things where, like, obviously this artist uses their platform to talk about more serious topics. So when you're interviewing them, why not also help them do that by asking them about some of those serious topics?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I hadn't finished the sentence. I didn't want to insult any of those kind of interviewers. What I meant when I said it's actually quite insulting when they only ask those questions and only want to do the jokey stuff. And then you're kind of like, oh, but, you know, you can kind of get to know us a little bit as well. So all that stuff is great, but there's only so much of it that, you know, it gets that there's a limit, there's a line, and it's really refreshing to be able to. And to be quite honest, a lot of our interviews will be at a festival or something like that, and we'll be backstage or something. And it then, because it's a music event, it seems like the most obvious thing to talk about is music. So I mean, that's understandable. Plus, we're quite a reserved bunch. I mean, you might not think it, but we're all quite, like Jay and I, as far as we're rappers, we're quite introvert, and we don't, you know, quite reserved, don't have a lot to say, unless you really get us talking, which you have with me today. Like you really struck a chord with this subject matter, so that's great. But normally we're kind of just like nodding our heads. You know, the rest of the guys, Rich, Josh, and James, who plays guitar for us now and does a lot of our production, they'll just be like, yeah, you know, everything's great, everything's cool. You know, not much really to. We're not really talkers, and plus we haven't had the opportunity yet. Really, I think in the US, you really get a lot of radio or podcast environments where people are sitting around a table now and talking properly. We don't really, I don't, so especially since I've been in the band, and I've been in the band now since 2017, May 2017, especially since I've been in the band, there hasn't been that interview environment where we've actually sat down around a table and had a proper conversation. And I think even if we did these kind of subjects about what's really going on and about why we're talking about the things we talk about in our songs, I think those subjects still probably wouldn't come up. It's the kind of thing that I don't know if you get that stereotype in the US. You hear about British people being quite reserved, but we tend to not really want to. It seems like most of the people who interview us don't really want to push those boundaries or really press those buttons. And I'm excited that you're on it. So that's great, because that's exactly what I'm on too. I honestly, when it all comes down to it, like, we could talk about all of the politics and all of the religion, all of the conspiracies, all of the facts, all of the agendas, the things that are being hidden, and I'm happy to do that. But of something funny that I can tell you right now, and I've done a lot of thinking. When it comes down to it, and I have my belief, and I kind of have a sense of what it's gonna maybe be like. But I honestly can't wait till we die and just find out what all of this, like the ultimate truth of all of this, what it is. You know what I mean? Like, what is why have we been able to live these lives where, if there is something after this life, why have we forgotten what was before? Was there something, you know, it's like, I really want the core truth of everything. So, it's very refreshing that I'm speaking with someone who's also a truth hunter, a truther.
Yeah, well, in America, truther has been a bad word for a while. It's been just like conspiracy theorists. I don't take offense to it. I embrace it, because to me, there's nothing wrong with. I say, if you look at the government, if you look at corporations, I treat them like if I had a wife who kept cheating on me. I'm like, okay, now you keep lying to me. Now I'm gonna. You're guilty until proven innocent, and
exactly.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, they've lied to you so many times. They've done so many messed up things. Why would you believe anything? Like, to me, it's like, prove to me it's that this is the actual story, that this is what's going on, and then I'll believe it. Because if not, then I'm just going to assume that there's always some hidden agenda, because when you look throughout history, there has been. I mean, you talked about how much of this stuff has been out in the open. I mean, a great a documentary and book called The Trials of Henry Kissinger. I mean, look at just Henry Kissinger, by Christopher Hitchens. You look at, Brzezinski, who wrote the book, The Grand Chessboard, who was in American politics for a long time. I mean, he talked about imperialism and just how everything is just a giant chessboard. They're just these pawns that you're moving to control things. And so, those in power look at the rest of us like we're just pawns. And I think that it's scary. I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. It's easier to continue your everyday life, pick up the kids, you grab food, you do your chores, and just go to bed, and just ignore the fact that we're in a war in Afghanistan, the longest running war in American history, and ignore the fact that there's drones who are shooting people in Yemen, and we're dropping bombs all over the world and provoking, wars, and that there's people dying. And for the majority of people who are going on with their everyday lives, like myself and everybody else who isn't directly involved in these wars, like if we're in a war or if we're not in a war, I still go to bed in the same room. I wake up, I go to work at the same place. Like, it doesn't affect my everyday life. And until it does, a lot of times people just don't care. And that's why we need to be reminded. After the Iraqi war, Bush basically didn't let news organizations film the caskets of the soldiers on the way back, and they were saying it was out of respect for the families. But personally, I think it was out of respect for the military-industrial complex of not trying, because nothing will make people more anti-war than being reminded that people die when we're in a war, that families are ripped apart. And you look at the Iraq War and eventually the Afghan War when that's over, and you look at it, almost all wars that in human history, so many of them you look back and say, oops, that could have been avoided. And then the politicians who made those decisions continued their lives rich and powerful, where the kids who were sent there, if they do come back, they come back with PTSD, they come back with lost limbs, they come back and their lives will never be the same. And all a politician says is, yeah, oops, maybe we shouldn't have went to Iraq. Oops, yeah, maybe they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. All this, they just move on with their lives and they don't care. And in America, they did a great thing of making people feel like they weren't patriotic if they weren't for these wars. Like, oh, you should be for the troops. You should, it's like, no, I mean, the most patriotic thing you can do, the most for the troops thing you can do is be anti-war. Because what I'm saying, and I know what you're saying, is that war should be a last resort. We teach kids that violence doesn't solve problems, but yet we go around trying to solve everything by bombs and guns and violence, and the whole thing is just insanity.
Yeah, and it's addictive. I'm not gonna lie. I love guns. I love guns. And it's like there's an inner. I mean, I have an inner turmoil because ever since I was a kid, I had a BB gun, a ball bearing gun, and I was shooting cans, shooting bottles in the garden, and I will always love shooting targets, bow and arrows, shooting targets, guns. I do like those weapons, but then when I actually sit down and think, which is all the time, like even when I'm just looking at a gun, it trips me out sometimes. I'm like, whoa, there's actually this item that is designed to just be, you point it at something and that thing is most likely going to die. It's just unbelievable. And then you think, well, it's not like it's almost built into our nature, like I just mentioned, bow and arrows, projectile weaponry, swords, even which are even more brutal in a way. War is in our nature, but as you said, it should be a last resort. And all throughout history, war, it started out like biblical war, for example. That was when there were real evil civilizations who were really evil, and all they did was just conquer, and people had to fight against them. Someone had to stand up and do something about it. And then throughout history, it became more about territory, which is okay because everyone had to, the borders had to be drawn up, and some of it was peaceful, some of it happened through, a lot of it happened through war. But nowadays, I think especially how the general human intelligence and the digital age and how open and accepting we're all being about everything. Like, saying that, I think we've really taken a backward step with racism, but that's a whole different subject. You think in this day and age, war really would be to be against the evil people. And then you think, well, yeah, we're all being told that that's what it is. But I'm not going to sit here and say certain things. Go and research who trained ISIS, who gave ISIS the weapons, who trained Saddam, who got Bin Laden, who was Bin Laden best friends with, and what certain organization in America was he frequently visiting and being visited by and exchanging weapons with. Are these really evil bad guys if they are in bed with, it's almost like now war is just another industry for the people at the top. We're not fighting bad guys. We are feeding a fire of financial circulation for a very small group of people who sit at the top, and missiles and guns and drones and dead bodies are currency for them. That's what it is. And war should be a last resort against people who are really evil. But hold on, they know that. They know people are going to think that. So they've created these evils for us to go, oh, terrorist this, terrorist that. Hold on a minute. What's more of a terror? Someone who, and even if it, right, say it's a real attack. So let's not, because I'm going all over the place here. Someone who lets off a little bomb that kills 6 people in, what was that city in the US where there was a marathon, begins with B, and there was...
Boston. Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry.
I live in that state, so it's easy for me to
right,
remember.
no, I'm just, I've got a bad memory. I've even been to Boston, man, when I was a kid. Anyway, what's more of a terrorist act? 6 or 7 people, and I mean, my heart goes out to their families. Come on, I'm not saying that that's I'm not down talking that in any way at all. That's a tragedy. But what's more of a terrorist act? 6 or 7 people dying in what could maybe have been a false flag attack, or may have been somebody who truly believed that they were, it may truly have been a religious extremist who did that. Doesn't matter. What's more of a terrorist act? That, or the fact that we are raining down bombs in Syria? We have been raining down bombs and firing bullets, laying down mines in Afghanistan, like you said, for way too long now. Who are the real terrorists here? Sometimes I look at our Western lives and I look at the fact that I have freaking, I don't know how many centimeter TV, and I've got PlayStation. I'm sitting there looking around me. I've got pets and covers and heat and like a remote control that covers my window. I'm like, hold on, who's really the bad guys here? Is it maybe I really think we're on the bad team. We're on the bad team, the Western world. So, somebody has to stand up and say, hey, if you made it part of, like you were saying, we all go to, we go to work, we go to school, we eat, we do what needs doing to run our homes and look after our families. And that's what needs to be done. And at the end of the day, that is the true meaning of life, love, looking after your loved ones. But if we just if everyone just set aside an hour a day, or even half an hour a day to just, right, it's time to do a bit of active, it's time to be an activist right now and really face some of the bad things that are happening, that our governments are doing in the world. I think we could fix, if even 50% of families in the Western world dedicated half an hour a day to trying to do something about all these evil acts that our governments are committing, we could fix 50% of it probably in 6 months. I don't know. I'm making up statistics, but come on, we should really be doing something about all this right now. So how can we not make music that, especially as a musician, when people are going to listen to you, we're mixing rap and metal, which is two really extreme musics that people are quite attracted to. I love metal and I love rap. And I've always been attracted to that anger and that release. But if we can use that anger and release to also maybe spread a bit of this message and get some truth out there, it's almost a sin not to. Like, it's almost like a responsibility for me. I feel like we should be. I couldn't, what did I say in? Is it Dogs of War? Yeah, in Dogs of War, I said we could rap about money and cars, but that'd be another disaster. Yeah, just keep distracting the people from the bleakest actions of evil. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we could rap about all the same stuff as everyone else, but that would be a disaster. We're just distracting the people from all this evil.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's exactly what some of it is. It's just a distraction. It's, people are keeping up with the Kardashians or listening to and don't get me wrong, I understand happy music, like you said. Like there's people, there is. I think both. Life's all about the yin and yang. I think you need balance, and I think it's important to enjoy life. And while your time is on here, play video games, smoke a cigar, drink some bourbon, whatever it may be. Do what makes you happy, because that's what life's about. But
for sure.
But I also think there's a lot of people out there who don't get, like you said, the opportunity that we do in the Western world to enjoy that happiness. Because I sometimes get in debates with people, and people will be like, oh, what are you, anti-American? Because like I said, I was born in Portugal. I wasn't even born in America. But I'm like, no, I love America. I love the American people. I don't like the American politicians. I don't like the American corporations. They don't reflect all the American people. In America, there's plenty of great thinkers and activists and people doing amazing work, and who I agree with and have and are using their energy and time to try to make a difference. So, I think it is important to appreciate the things we do have and enjoy, America or England or France or Portugal, wherever you may be in the Western world, where you do have the opportunity to enjoy a safe environment. We don't have to worry about drones going over our countries and possibly dying accidentally. But we have to remember that there are people out there who do live in that type of terror, who do live in that type of environment. And in many cases, because of the countries that we're enjoying this peaceful time in. So, I'm very much like yourself, where I can't ignore that and not try to do something about it. I started this podcast. It was named after a song that I wrote called Ripple Effect. And it was about this idea of pushing this idea that we can all start a ripple. You never know how big it's going to be, or I have no back. I'm like a failing musician. My brother and I played in like a new metal industrial type band, and that was basically it. And I had all this musical equipment. I had a mixer. I knew how to use Pro Tools, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm not playing music anymore. I love podcasts because it's like the one place where I can go and I seem to get access to real ideas and real discussions with real people. And so I'm like, I can do that. And so why not? Why not attempt to do something? And I felt like I was living kind of an unfulfilled life. And I started this podcast. And now, this month is actually like my 6-year anniversary. And,
wow.
and this episode's my 199th episode. So I'm one away from 2. Yeah, and I started this 6 years ago, and I started in my basement with my buddy, who I just convinced hey, let's kind of share some of our discussions and put it out there. And now I look back, I've had people like Freeway Rick Ross, who was the drug trafficker. He was linked to all the cocaine that was coming into Meta, Arkansas. And I've had people on like Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who was chief of staff for Colin Powell. I've had Jesse Ventura, the governor. I've had all these people, and I'm like, who the fuck am I? I'm just a dude who just felt like I could do something. And now I've been lucky enough to have even people like you. I've had, I don't know if it was your manager or whoever it was that was contacting me. I'm like, I'm in a basement. I'm this idiot who just is trying to do something, and I'm talking to people's managers and agents and booking people, and I'm just like, it still blows my mind that I've gotten to this point where people are willing to come on and want to come on and to have these discussions. But
that's how life works. That's how things start. Something I truly believe in is, if you start something and you don't stop it, you're gonna get somewhere with it. You're definitely gonna succeed as long as you just don't stop. you're gonna, especially if it's something good, or there's some talent behind it, or there's some good intention behind it. I think there's a not only is it the persistence, but there's also like a good energy that's going to be pushing you to succeed in that area. So that's definitely what seems to have happened for you, man. I know it's what happened for me. I just used to be a fan of rap when I realized, like, first of all, it was metal, and then I think when I was 17, I heard rap in a British accent, and I was like, whoa, hold on, I can rap in my accent, and it's taken seriously. And so then it was like, just blew my mind. And then I was just a fan. I had no idea that one day I'd be, on a podcast talking to a guy about the truths of the world, because I'm in a band, so I'm in exactly the same place as you, man. I think it's just a case of, once you start doing something, do not stop. And especially if you've got a good, you're in the right place, your heart's in the right place with it. It's, we're going to get there. You're going to succeed. You're going to have these high points, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think people are attracted, people sense passion. When somebody, like your music, when you guys are talking about real things, it's like, we know as a listener that you're not doing it because you're going to get more downloads. Like in some cases, like we talked about possibly with your new video, Dogs of War, in some cases you might get less downloads or less views because of the things you're talking about. But the people who do get attracted to that and do see it are going to see, like, there's a passion there. There's a passion in the way you sing. There's a passion in your lyrics. There's a passion in the music and the feel of the video, the feel of the song. And it's because it's coming from a real place, and people are attracted to that. When I first started this podcast, it was similar. People came on not because I had a lot of downloads or because I had a resume or anything. It was just because they felt like, okay, this person is trying to do a good thing and he's passionate about it. And same thing with your music, and I think people are attracted to that. But you're absolutely right about just being consistent, and just being, but I think it's also easy, right? I know for myself, and probably similar to your experience, it's easy to be consistent when you're actually motivated by your work and you have a passion to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Would you say it's actually easier to continue doing it than probably stop?
Oh, I couldn't stop. Even if, say, for some reason, I stopped putting music out, I genuinely, literally can't stop creating music. Like, say, sometimes it's a burden. I'll put on some instrumental music, and it might hit a tempo that is within my comfort range, and then there might be a melody that gets my passion drive going, and suddenly I've got a chorus in my head, and then suddenly verses start coming out. It's literally, sometimes it feels like a disease, like just this it's like constantly got these ideas, reciting these things. It's like a mania or something. So and luckily I enjoy it. Luckily I love it. So yeah, definitely much easier to do things when you love them and when you have a passion for them. But yeah, even if, say, for someday I was to stop putting music out, or if Hacktivist, God forbid, I love our band so much. Obviously, if ever Hacktivist was to stop, I would still continue on my own. And if ever I stopped putting out music on my own, I definitely wouldn't stop writing it. I'd probably be making tunes and just sticking them on a hard drive, or maybe listening to them myself or with friends. Yeah, it's definitely a passion, something I love, and something I literally could not stop. I don't know if that might go away with old age or something, but for now, it's like a motor that won't stop running. It's great.
Yeah, and I think there's something beautiful about the idea of lyrics or a melody or a chorus or just a theme for a song coming from thin air, and you never know what's going to spark it. Like you said, like if it's going to be watching a documentary, if it's going to be some music that's in the background, if it's going to be, you know, just in the car and mumbling something, humming something, and then all of a sudden something sparks this creativity. It's yeah, you never know where it's going to come from. Do you use your phone to kind of record lyrics or write down lyrics or melodies or anything, like because of that fact that it can kind of come at any time? Or do you sit down and you write and you say, hey, I'm going to give myself a couple hours to write, and I'm just gonna
both, man, both. I have to really always because of my bad memory as well. I think that could be down to many years of teenage self-abuse. But I have I have a really bad memory, so I always have to be ready to note down little pieces of, you know, I remember to recite one of, you know, the master of rap, if you like. Eminem once said that he would one of his writing methods was just to put down little pieces of what he liked to call ammo, just little bits, little things that would come into his head, and then when he sat down to write, he'd stitch them all together. And that's one method that just came automatically to me. So when I heard that interview with him, I was like, oh, hey, I already do that. And then there are also times when I will sit down and be like, right, I really want to sit and have a good chunk of time to just write right now. So both, man. And in answer to your question, both methods for me. I know Jay, it's a shame he had to leave, but Jay takes his time with writing. He will write a song a lot of the time over the period of a few months. He likes to really go over the text and make sure they're perfect. And then there's other times where he will, like today, for example, in the studio, he will just write some stuff there and then and just do it there and then. So I think we both have our own methods. Our instrumentalist as well, Rich, our drummer, he gives us a lot of little ideas for lyrics, which is great. So that's fun. So we've got not only our own personal, Jay and I, our own personal little methods of how we write, but then we've got the other band members who, especially recently, have started to give us ideas as well, which is really interesting and really fun. It's great to be part of a band where all five of us, we all believe in what's being said. You know, it's not just a band where, okay, you guys make the music and we'll just say what we want. We all kind of have to agree on the subject of a song or what's going to be said, or, you know, so that's something I'm really grateful for within Hacktivist. But then in my personal life and my lyrics and things on the side, so sometimes a lyric might not be Hacktivist worthy, but it's still great. So I'll always have my phone ready to note it down. And if there's a melody involved, yeah, I have to find somewhere quiet. I have to find somewhere quiet to quickly hum it or sing it into a recording app. So yeah, it's constant process.
Nothing's worse than having a really good melody and then not recording it, and then later just it vanishes forever, and you're like, you know that's the worst. So it's it's cool that we all have cell phones, and now we're well, I should say cool in this aspect, because obviously there's a lot of other negative aspects to having cell phones.
Technology is it is so good when used for the right things, and it can be such a bane when used when used wrongly. It's really a blessing and a curse all at once.
Well, you talked about guns, and I think a lot of times when you're being, you know, you get people who are anti-war and they talk about, you know, guns. It's like, I don't blame the tool for anything. I blame the people who use it. You know, I can use my phone to learn about specific issues, and I can learn I've had people on who write about foreign policy, who write about geopolitics, who write about science, you know, Rupert Sheldrake and all these people on, and I'm not an expert. I mean, I barely graduated high school. if my parents let me, I would have dropped out of high school. And yet I can hold these conversations with these people because I have access to basically all the knowledge and information in the world in the palm of my hand. So,
Oh, hey, I'll share a secret with you, man. Well, it's not really a secret, but it's something I often forget myself. I was homeschooled. My mum she taught me where the library was. She got a load of books. She taught me how to, teach myself. And then she would obviously, she didn't just say teach yourself, but she taught me how to teach, how one should teach them, educate themselves, and continue to do that throughout your life. And yeah, man, honestly, like we were talking about the education system earlier, they tell you what they want to tell you. So really, once you learn how to use these tools, like it used to be the library, now it's the internet. Once you learn how to really educate yourself and how to research facts, or research things to find out if they're factual, who really needs school? And especially these days, the way a lot of I don't know about in the US, but definitely over here in the UK and in Europe, there's people who are coming out of university with degrees and they're not getting the job over someone else who just has experience. And they just got experience because they somehow managed to get their foot in the door and start doing something, and then build it up, and then got onto the next level and the next level. And then someone comes out of college with like a 5-year degree and they're like, oh, hey, I'm qualified. They're like, yeah, but hold on, this guy he's been doing it. So it's almost like, the education system is something that I really think it's something Bob Marley said. If only his actual quote was, I wish everyone would just smoke weed every day and we could redo society. Well, I'm not so sure about the smoke weed every day part. But if we could do a redo of society, I think the education system is one of the first places we should start. Like it's one of the first things that needs to be revamped straight away.
Well, like they say, or one of my good friends, and I've said it on the show before, why teach anybody something they can look up? It's a complete waste of their time. Universities used to have a monopoly on information, because if you wanted access to the best lectures, the best books, the best professors, you had to have money to go to the university. And today, if you have the internet, you have access to all that stuff. So there's no need for college and put kids in all this debt just to get a job that usually doesn't even involve what they majored in the first place. And you see a lot of successful people in the world who didn't have PhDs or didn't have, some of the greatest thinkers. And you talked about being homeschooled. I mean, teaching a child how to critically think, and how to imagine and use creativity and be curious is a skill that's going to be important in their whole lives and in all aspects of their lives, in regards to trying to understand themselves, try to understand the world around them, understand their relationships with nature and their friends and family, all these things. And, I think school a lot of times is just, my son just started preschool this year, recently, a couple weeks ago, and I was scared shitless. I'm like, they're just going to teach him how to conform. They're going to teach him to just everybody to think the same, act the same. And it's like, I wasn't like that. And in a way, it's like I want him to do good in school. And I always thought like, schooling is probably a bad option. But once my child started going to school, I started to rethink homeschooling. I'm like telling my wife, I'm like, hey, is it too late to homeschool? Because I'm like, you really don't have to waste all this time getting this kid to just memorize useless information. To memorize information for the sake of memorizing information is a complete waste of time. This professor and author and philosopher I love, Daniele Bignelli, he talks about this, and he was the first person to really talk about this on my podcast, about how just being able to regurgitate names and dates, to me, is pointless. And Daniele Bignelli would talk about this. He's like, what's really important is like how does this information help you better understand yourself or the world around you? And that's what's important, you know. So, you know, you talk about having a bad memory. To me, like, I don't having a good memory is somewhat useful in regards to I guess regurgitating some facts and stuff like that. But if you don't understand why those facts were important, you know, to me, or how they relate to something important, to me, it's just regurgitation. It's memorization of information, but it's not important, you know. So I think that's sometimes somebody can come off very intelligent sounding just by memorizing information and then telling you the stuff to memorize. But I think most of us can't be tricked that way. I think you talk to somebody who seems like they have a understanding of things, and maybe can't just regurgitate stuff. To that person is much more interesting and probably has things figured out much better.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. Couldn't agree more. It's really a case of not regurgitating the same information, and quite often information that who is they, but you know, the education system has been put together to inform us about really what they should be teaching us is how to teach ourselves, and never stop doing that. And you know, reciting information is really, it's like a mantra. That's like a form of brainwash. You know, you're like, memorize this. Now we're going to test you on how much of it you've got in your, you know, memorize. It's kind of like a very strange method of
social control.
Yeah, it's mad. Now, I mean, I don't want everyone to, you know, everyone to think it's all doom and gloom. I didn't go to little school or high school. I did go to like a kind of college for a couple of years, and it was great. Like, I mean, I had so much fun. The things I learned, I did video and radio, and I learned, then I dropped that and did music. I had so much fun, and I'm not like slagging off the education system at all. And then just with like talking about guns and stuff like that, you know, if they were only used for going and shooting targets, they are so much fun. I am a hedonist, man. I really love having fun. Like I said, I probably drank a little too much throughout my teenage years, and, you know, abused myself a little too much. I'm a fun-loving person. So, like, I don't want everyone to think it's all doom and gloom, and definitely the rest of the band, they're the same as well. We all love having a good time, and it's just when it comes down to it, you know, I guess especially on this new album, 2/3 of it, we just decided right now, the state of things and the way we all feel and the way there's a new dynamic. You know, we got a new guitarist and producer, James Hewitt, who's just jumped on board with us. It's been 18 months now, but, you know, it's still quite new. Myself, it's been just 2.5 years, two and something years. And we all agree on these things. So we thought, well, hey, the way things are kind of looking politically, the way someone can come in from the entertainment industry and suddenly be in politics, even the president, the way there are wars that have been going on in countries that people don't even, you know, the news doesn't even talk about. We all just decided, hey, we should probably talk about this. So I guess like 2/3 of this new album is running along these lines, but at the same time, you know, I'm a real sci-fi geek. I'm a mad nerd. You know, we've all got our kind of little. I love playing PlayStation and stuff like that, just like the next guy. You know, so. It's just like I said earlier, if only we were all just that little bit more aware and we all just put a bit more time into, signing a petition is one thing, but say like, what about a bit more community, or like, putting something into even just the local area, or, it sounds whack. It's the kind of thing that kids are gonna, when you're a kid, you listen to that, you're like, oh man, I don't want to do, what are you talking about? It's boring. But it's like, hold on a minute. In fact, I'm probably wrong in saying that right now, because kids are really becoming aware right now. What's that whole new, it's like a meme thing. It's like the Visco girl or whatever. It's like, oh, you're still using a plastic straw? Oh, here, I've got 2 metal ones. You can borrow one of mine. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
No, I haven't.
It's quite funny. But it's like, there's like it's almost, or in the film 21 Jump Street, when they have to go back to school. I mean, that's even a few years old now, that film, but they go back to school, and your guy's like trying to be all cool. He's like, oh, I don't care. He like throws some rubbish on the floor, and one of the freshmen's like, hey man, that's totally not cool. Like, why are you just throwing rubbish on it? The kids, the message is getting out there to a degree. I think in the next few years we're gonna see a line, quite a clear-cut line between people who are, I don't want to say woke, because it's a cliche now. Woke is just, there's woke, there's super woke, there's, fake woke, there's can't believe it's not woke, there's there's the low-fat woke, there's the diet woke. But, people who are really aware of what's going on and focusing on trying to be good and make a change. And then, the other side who's kind of just still happy to be dumb and go along with, is kind of like, no, do you know what? I don't really care. Who really, come on. The world's doomed anyway. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? I think we're going to see a clear-cut line, a division between, those two sides of our society. It's already there, but I think it's going to get more and more clear, and it's almost going to be like there's going to be a lot of opposition between these two sides of. And I don't want to put it down to, like I mentioned earlier, I do have a belief system, and I think, everything comes down to wrong and right at the end of the day. I believe that, life is just a battle between making the right and wrong choices. But I think it's going to come down to that. Everyone's going to just sort of be like, right, well, look, it's quite obvious that this is good, that's bad, this is good. They're doing something wrong, they're doing something right. And the people that are running things, hold on, they're bad. I think everyone's just going to figure it out. They're already starting to. It's just going to be, and the day that becomes common knowledge, we're going to see a real change in our generation. And so, you can't ignore it. I love playing PlayStation, man. I've got a BB gun. I shoot cans to pieces. I run around. I'm still a rapper. I hang around with, guys. We do parkour. I skateboard. I love having fun. But, we got to talk about this stuff. We need to face it. So I don't want anyone to think that Hacktivist is all doom and gloom. Like I said earlier, we're not preachers, because a lot of the things that we talk about, we're just as guilty, man. Like, our drummer Rich is married recently. Congratulations to him. That's amazing. Jay, who was with us earlier, he's just had his second child. We're all running our lives. It's easy. It's just as easy for us to forget what's important. Man, sometimes when I get an idea in my head and my phone's too far, I'm like, and I'm sitting there eating pizza, playing PlayStation, I'm like, who really cares? And then you have to think, hold on though, that's, I'm guilty. We're all guilty. We're all guilty at one time or of another of being ignorant. But we just have to try our hardest. I think, look at the Amazons burning. You know about that, right?
Yeah, in Brazil.
Yeah, the Amazon's burning. People didn't find out about it for 3 weeks. It wasn't, and then Twitter started going crazy about it. If the statistics are right, I read this somewhere, so it might not be right. I didn't follow up to see if it was factual, but I read, like 20% of the world's oxygen and 50% of the world's species. I think that's an exaggeration, but something like that are all based right there, and it's just burning away, and we didn't even know about it for 3 weeks. So in one way, it is almost too late. Like, the things are doomed to a degree, but I think it matters. It matters that some of us stand up and at least try and spread the truth, try and make a change. It's like, let me share a parable with you. This is something that stayed with me all of my life. I'm sitting in the room with a parrot here who's being very noisy. I'm looking after my cousin's parrot. Hey, shush. Yeah, basically, this guy was walking along a beach. This is the parable. I'm not sure if it's true. It's probably not true. And there were all these starfish, like hundreds and hundreds of starfish washed up on the beach. And he was picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the sea. And another guy was walking the opposite direction, and he sees him doing this, and he says, "Hey," he says, "look how many starfish there are, man." He said, "What are you gonna spend the rest of your week, the rest of your month walking down this? You're never gonna get them all back in the sea before they all die. What's the point?" And he picked up a starfish, and he threw it back into the sea, and he went, "Well, it made a point for that one." Or I think he said, what difference does it make? And he picked up a starfish and threw it in and went, "Well, it made a difference to that one." So really, that really held some weight with me. It's a simple little, parable, but what if we're all doomed? You do one, spread a bit of truth here, do a bit of good there. It matters there and then. That's what matters. It mattered in that instance, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah, and the thing is, this, that's a great story, kind of reflecting what I was talking about in regards to the ripple effect. I mean, that is the idea of the ripple effect, is that you never know how many people you're gonna affect, and even if you just affect that one person, it's worth doing. And I always use the example of, like, some of the most influential people in the world were influenced by lesser known people, and those lesser known people probably went along their lives thinking, I'm never going to make a big impact, I'm never going to change the world. But you look at people like, I brought up earlier, Nikola Tesla. You look at people like Peter Joseph, from the Zeitgeist movement. You look at, like, anybody who has really been influential, Martin Luther King, whoever it may be. They had influences in their lives. If you sat them down and said, "Hey, which book, which story, like the same way that stuck with you, like who told you the story or the metaphor or the quote or exposed you to the book or whatever it may be, the poem, the song that sparked your thinking, that changed the way you looked at the world." Like, they all were influenced by somebody that was lesser known, and those people were probably thinking, like, "Oh, what difference am I going to make?" But yeah, you end up influencing the people who made a difference and the people who did spark a lot of thought in thousands or millions of people. So it's you never know the impact you're going to have. There's could be a kid listening to this, on his way to class or doing some, a person doing some yard work, just have their earbuds in listening to this, or doing some traveling, doing some driving, and really we're all examples of that, right? You're influenced by people who probably aren't going to be as popular as you. I was influenced by podcasters that probably aren't even, some podcasters weren't even podcasting right now, so
Yeah.
I remember one podcast by this guy Guy Evans. He's actually from Wales, but now lived in the U.S. And he had a podcast. He was one of the first podcasts I listened to, and he probably doesn't know that there's a lot of other podcasters that are being influenced by maybe some of his work. So it's just it is one of those things where you never know the impact you're having. There could be somebody listening who could have even a bigger impact than us, and we're helping expose them to a different way of looking at things. And I think the similarities with a lot of my guests, if it's you who's an artist, a writer, or if it's a filmmaker, if it's whoever it may be, researcher, author, I think everybody kind of has this similarity that we're all influenced by our curiosity, and we're all motivated by sharing that curiosity and exploring that curiosity and seeing where it takes you to help better understand the world. I use the metaphor that I think the world, the meaning of life is a giant puzzle, and every piece of information you gather, every thing you kind of figure out throughout your journey is one more piece of that puzzle. And as you gather pieces, that image of that puzzle becomes a little clearer. And our goals should be to gather as many pieces as possible. And at the end of our journey, we might not get enough pieces to completely understand life or the world or the meaning of life, but we're going to have a better understanding because we've gathered those pieces. So
exactly,
I think that's important, and I think there are some people, my wife, before she met me, ignorance was bliss to her. She loved to dance. She loved friends, family. But she didn't really care about these other issues. And I think that's okay too. You need those people, because sometimes those people ground people like yourself and me who might drive ourselves crazy talking about these things or researching these things. And then we kind of need to hang out with some people who just want to play PlayStation, who just want to watch football, who just want to watch basketball and just have a good time and kind of get your mind off this and be able to.
Which is great.
Yeah. I think we need the balance of both, because if not, it can be depressing if you're constantly only looking at the bad in the world and you forget there's a lot of good in the world also.
I think if we were all running around looking for the lies and the truth and the injustices and highlighting them and trying to do something about them, I think we would very quickly bring about a revolution that would probably be quite dangerous. So like you said, we need it's a certain degree, even ourselves, we need to control ourselves to make sure that we don't go too far deep into it, because now this is just my personal opinion. Nothing against anyone at all who has made their decision about this. I'm still not decided 100%, but 95% of me still feels like the world is round. But I think when you start going really deep into looking for things that, things that aren't true, things that are lies, things that are made up, things that are the wool that's been pulled over our eyes and things like that, I think maybe you can take it too far. And hey, maybe the world is flat. Like, no offense to anyone who believes it is at all. I stand here now and say I could be wrong, and who knows? But I think it's round. And I think that maybe, who cares whether it's round or flat? Because it's got to the point now where so many people are arguing about that really, at the end of the day, is that ending wars? Is that saving lives? Is that, putting a smile on people's faces? You can go too far with this stuff, and at the end of the day, it becomes a debate. It becomes a fight, and then we're doing exactly the things that we're talking about shouldn't be happening in the first place. So yeah, we definitely need to stay grounded. We need people around us who are grounded, and we need to make sure that we keep ourselves, we keep a healthy balance between having fun and just being aware, being self-aware, being aware of what's going on around us. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I tell you what, I'm gonna have to call it a night. It's coming up to 11 o'clock over here, and I've got to be up at like 7 to go to the studio again. I also feel a bit guilty that it's just me, and that Jay had to leave, and that we don't have any of the other guys from the band to sort of to give their view. It's all very well that. But that's the good thing about it, is we all honestly do share a lot of views. I mean, I might have said some things there about, the shape of the world, or believing in there being a creator. They're my personal views that, don't necessarily reflect Hacktivist. But when it comes to trying to expose a bit of truth and trying to get a bit of action out there about, some things that people might not know about, all 5 of us feel the same way. And I just want to say, massive shout out to Jay, who was here earlier, Jay Hurley. Massive shout out to Josh Gurner, our bassist. Massive respect to Rich Hawking, who's been our drummer from the start. And massive respect to James Hewitt, who's our newest member and who's doing all the guitar and production work for us at the moment. I wish the rest of the guys could be here to talk to you now. Maybe that podcast is a future one that we can have where we're all talking about this kind of thing. But I really want to thank you for having me and Jay on, and me especially, as I've been the one that's brought this to a close with you today. And obviously we have a new album coming out. I can't give you the name and I can't give you the date, but there's new music coming out. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 new singles before that. And obviously for people who don't know who we are Hacktivists. You can find us online just by searching Hacktivist Band or Hacktivist UK. And you can add me, Jot Maxi, and all the rest of the band members on most of the social medias just by searching the band name. And we're pretty good in general with answering messages, and especially questions about things like this. So if anyone wants to kind of ask us about our opinions on certain things, or wants to continue any of the subjects that we've touched on tonight, I would and on behalf of the rest of the band, we invite people to come and chat to us about stuff like this, because it's brilliant. I've really enjoyed chatting to you about it tonight, man. So thanks again for having me on, and having me and Jay on earlier on. It's been great.
Yeah, well, thanks for being with me. I really appreciate your willingness to kind of open up to these things. I know sometimes doing a long form interview or conversation, I don't even like calling them interviews, because I like it to be more casual, which it was, and I really enjoyed that. And I can't thank you enough for being with me and sharing your thoughts and willingness to really even get into some of these topics. And it's I truly appreciate artists like yourselves who are willing to talk about these things, regardless if it's good or bad or whatever it may be for your music career. And I think people who are fans of yours and people who hopefully are fans of mine who will be exposed to your music will really appreciate the fact that you guys are passionate about this stuff. And hopefully I have you guys all on again in near future. I'll be more than happy to have as many of you guys who are willing to come on. And now that you kind of get a feel for the podcast and you kind of get a feel for the setting of it, then you can kind of share with the other guys that, hey, you can talk about anything you want. And there really aren't any guidelines. And if we want to go down some conspiracy rabbit holes, I'll be more than happy to go down any of them. I'm sure I've probably talked about all of them in the past. So, I mean, I don't stray away from any controversial topics. I've talked about vaccines. I've talked about 9/11. I've talked about, I've done multiple JFK assassination specials, MLK assassination. So it's a... to me, it's really important to be able to question things, and even something like flat Earth. I've had Eddie Bravo on, who's been obviously a big spokesperson for the flat Earth movement. But I'm like yourself. I don't subscribe to it, but I think that all things should be entertained, because I've been wrong about things in the past. And
absolutely.
So I mean, I just did a whole podcast on the JFK or on MK Ultra and the CIA for mind control. And that, I mean, if you look at that, like 10, 15 years ago, that looked like something so crazy that it couldn't be true. Or you look at 20 years ago, the CIA using LSD to try to control minds and brainwash people. That sounds insane, and all this stuff. And now it's proven to be true. So to me, nothing is out of the realm of possibility. If they're willing to go to war over lies, if they're willing to shoot democratically elected president like JFK in broad daylight, and still cover it up even after all these years, I mean, then what is impossible? So I'm with you. I'm like, even if something seems a little far-fetched, don't completely dismiss it immediately. It's like, because crazier things have come out to be true. So it's worth at least being curious and sometimes looking into. So. But thank you so much. I know you need to get your sleep, and I don't want the guys being all mad at me because I gave them a very tired vocalist for tomorrow.
No problem. No, it's gonna be great. And I'm ashamed to admit that I wasn't aware of your podcast up until now, and now that I am, and I know the rest of the guys were like, "Whoa!" We all kind of looked into it when I know that we were asked to do this, but when our manager was talking to you, we all kind of looked into it and we're like, whoa, hold on. Yeah, that's definitely worth doing, because we do kind of, as we were saying earlier, interviews can be very samey. We do turn a lot of them down, and it's very refreshing to be able to talk to someone like yourself, Ricky, man. So big respect to you, and I know that we're gonna be tuning into a lot of your future podcasts from now on. It's great to know that you're out there doing this. So big respect to yourself.
Yeah, well, you guys were perfect, because I love your music and I love your message, and this podcast is a perfect platform to have people like Ralph from Enter Shikari. From I've had Burton C. Bell, who's from Fear Factory, Man vs. Machine. Like all these musicians who are willing to not just talk about music, but talk about bigger issues, bigger picture, get into philosophy, get into personal opinions on stuff. I mean, to me, it's a perfect way of showing that these artists like yourself, like you're much more interesting than just your music. You have opinions and perspectives, and it's also important to also highlight who you are as a person, and the complexity of your thinking and thought process, and not just your inspirations in regards to music, but your life inspirations and your life perspectives. So yeah, it's great to give you guys a platform to do this. So but thanks a lot. I don't want to take any more of your time. We'll definitely keep in touch and get together. I send you the link to that Whitney Webb podcast. If you haven't looked into that Jeffrey Epstein story, it's definitely mind blowing, and she's the best journalist. She's been on like every show recently, talking about it. So and if there's any other topics you're interested in, I'll be more than happy to send you podcasts I've done more than likely on those topics, and I'll definitely look forward to the new music, and hopefully have all you guys on in the near future.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be looking into a lot of your previous work anyway, and just seeing, because it's one of my favorite pastimes is to do a bit of research, do a bit of YouTube digging into these kind of things. So I'm glad that I now have a whole new. I'm actually quite excited to explore your channel, bro. So yeah, I mean, this has been The Ripple Effect with myself, Jot Maxi. Earlier on we had Jay Hurley from Hacktivist, and it's been an honor. Thank you very much, man. I hope to speak to you again soon.
Hey, thanks. Take care.
Take care, brother. Take care, bro. Bye.
Situation dire, dead souls on the horizon.